All right then. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Musings and Music Show. Of course, this is the musings part of it. Once you see that I have a panel, a very distinguished panel here with me, it's not going to be about music. It's going to be about something really, really important. I have three people here, two mullahs and one ear. So I guess I'll start with the ear first and have her tell the Vosaworld radio and TV audience who she is, and then we'll move on along.
Thank you for having me. I am LOIS IKOME. I live in Limbe, in Phako, and I'm a member of the P.C.U.
All right. And then I guess I should be going clockwise. So I'll go to Mullah up there with the bridge, the wonderful bridge behind him for your background.
Well, fantastic. Hello, my name is Julius ESUNGE, and of course, I consider myself a Phako national. You will certainly discover what that is all about here in a bit.
All right then, and then last but definitely not least, we have the mullah there in this rich embroidery. This is what people who are listening are missing. You better make sure you watch the video when the time comes because he's sitting right there, very handsomely garbed. So who is he?
This is Mullah NGANJE. I've been a professor for the last 24 years at North Dakota State University.
Okay, nice to have you all on the show. You're very, very welcome. And if you were listening keenly, then you heard Sister Lois talk about P.C.U. And I'm sure you're going, P.C.U., what is that? I know about the ICU, not a good thing. What is this P.C.U. thing about? So I'm going to say, what does P.C.U. stand for to begin with?
So let me open up the conversation as one of the founding members of P.C.U. P.C.U. stands for Phako Credit Utility. In principle, it is Phako Credit Union. And in the course of working on the nomenclature, it became very clear that, calling it Phako Credit Union would pose a few issues because there were perhaps some very similar entities already on the block. And so we settled for Phako Credit Utility. And in the background is, of course, not a bridge that many would not recognize, but really P.C.U. in simplest terms is designed to be a bridge to financial empowerment for individuals who do business with this entity. It is the first of its kind, both in its ownership and its creation. Namely, it is a pulling together of moral, intellectual, physical, and financial resources from Phako nationals. These are sons and daughters who trace their origins back to Phako division in the Republic of Cameroon. Some are in the diaspora, some are within the country as well, away from the division, so as well in the diaspora, and some are within the division. And the idea was simple. The way to promote upward mobility for a people is to increase their capacity to access resources, in particular financial resources, to enable them attain some of their objectives. So in a unique win-win operation, folks with slightly more resources decided to pool together and make that avalanche of wealth available to John and Mary across the street, so they too can actually move, their folks forward and attain their own dreams. Mullah NGANJE is among those who was with me and several others at the inception of this idea. I'm sure he would like to add something to this.
Please do, please do.
I think you got it all covered. I think the only thing I will add is that this was kind of a legacy project. We're in the diaspora, and we always look forward to what we can do. And we told ourselves, nobody is going to develop our nation or our country or our area for us. We have to do it ourselves. So that's where some of the idea came from. How can we help our people back home and help ourselves so that we create a legacy that in generations to come, when we're gone, our children can say, well, this is a bank that was started by our forefathers in several years or centuries back.
Correct. That really is amazing. Because when Mola Julius was talking, he talked about resources and people having the dreams, but the problem is that sometimes the resources and the dreams don't meet. The person with the dreams doesn't have the resources. Somebody with the resources too doesn't necessarily have that particular dream. So the two need to come together for it to actually happen. And I was smiling because a proverb, a pidgin proverb was going through my head as he said that. He said, "Troki be one box, but I say a hand shot." So you're kind of lengthening the hand of the Troki so he can actually do boxing too, because he can throw a punch or two. Because most of the time we think about helping, we buy some shoes, buy some cosmetics and things and send them home to our people and say, that's fine. That helps them for a bit, but it does not help them actually, it doesn't help with sustenance. It will not help them do much. It will not help them serve those dreams. So this is a really wonderful idea to help and leave that legacy, like you said, so people can get to do things, meaningful, lasting things. And then we don't need to keep sending stuff back home because they themselves can now take care of themselves. That is awesome. So I heard you talk, you kind of touched on certain things, but I'm wondering, you already kind of said it's like Phako indigenes, whether abroad or living in the country, like who's really eligible, who can do business with P.C.U.
So at the nexus of P.C.U, namely in the heart of its structuring, the individuals who sort of are the owners, the promoters, the investors must be Phako nationals.
Okay.
But clients can be anybody from anywhere. You know, anybody can walk into a P.C.U branch office and set up an account. And that the ability to then access loans or access funding for various projects or what have you is underwritten by the Phako nationals in the diaspora and at home who have pooled these resources together. And I'm sure LOIS is well positioned from her vantage place at home to say more about this.
Please do. The floor is yours, Sister Lois.
Thank you. So the people around who are not necessarily Phako indigenes and who may not be married to people from Phako, because the eligibility for you to be an investor is that you are of Phako origin, either one or both parents, or you are married to somebody who is from Phako, or the board of directors and or the General Assembly decide to give you that status, recognize you as a Phako indigene. Those are the people who can be investors, as we heard, who are what we call the preferred stock members. But the other people who live around who want to do business can do business. And therefore, they can just walk into the office and open an account and set up and have all of the privileges except the privileges of voting. They can't vote. Such people can only do business, but they can't vote. They don't have voting rights. And of course, they cannot influence the activities of, they can't take decisions that influence the activities of P.C.U. So those people cannot. And it's really exciting. You know, you go around in Phako, since we are talking about P.C.U, which has to do with Phako, and you see so many people having financial empowerment. I mean, doing business, you see all kinds of credit unions and things like that. And then what about the Phako person?
Exactly.
So I was really particularly excited when I got to know of Phako Credit Utility. And of course, I decided to join the bandwagon. And I think it is really a wonderful thing.
It really is. I'm excited. Yeah, that's the reason the show is happening, because I'm excited to hear about that. I don't want to go and repeat the things that have often been said about Phako and its indigenes as a tribe. Oh no, they're not up to much good. This is really awesome to hear. So you're talking about a physical place then. Where is it? Where is this place where I could walk in and do business? Where is this located in Phako? Where's the physical premises where if I wanted to, if I'm listening to this now or watching this and I do want to do business, what do I do? How do I proceed?
If I may continue.
Please.
So we have our head office in Small Sopo in the Rudolph Ifange building, apartment 3. That's where we have our headquarters. We have our offices open there. And we have people who are working the management staff there. But we have the intention of moving on opening branches in Limbe, Muyuka, probably Tiko, Douala, Yaoundé. So that will happen very soon as we hear about some of the challenges we faced and what has really held us back a little in going full throttle. So, but for now, our office that is functioning and that is open is found in Small Support, opposite Memos in the Ifange building, Rudolph Ifange building. Yeah.
I happen to know where that is. So when did this start? Because people will be hearing this and thinking, how long have they been around for? I would confess, it's not so long since I heard that it actually existed. So how long have you been around for?
I can take that, and then our chairman can add some stuff. So 2017, we started brainstorming on this idea, and some initial staff members started contributing their money in 2017. So it's a lengthy process to get a microfinance institution approved all the way. Mm-hmm. In 2020, we had some solid steps in terms of filing for a microfinance one institution. Mm-hmm. And as you can, you hear from a lot of folks that we got the approval in 2021 from the Ministry of Finance. And this year, 2022, mm-hmm. we're excited to say we've been having news that we've had the approval from COBAC. So it started a while back, and some of us did contribute money way back in 2017, but the approval process has been slow.
Indeed, Professor NGANJE is very much on target with that. So right about 2017, you know, this idea of having a mega institution owned and operated by Phako nationals that serves anyone really began taking steam. Like with many fantastic ideas, you suddenly now need to pool the intellectual resources and pool the human resources. Mm-hmm. And of course, as you alluded, one of the things that has sort of eluded the Phako nation, if I will put it that way, is selflessness. Is people, dare I say, people who are willing to say, you know what, I will put whatever I have down to see this happen. And for me, it's a unique privilege to note that the other two panelists exemplify some of the very best and rare qualities needed in any nation, in particular in the Phako nation. I say that for several reasons. Number one, as anyone would guess, I'm the youngest among them, you know, but these folks were not moved by age or whatever. It was like, everybody has an idea. Let's pull together. You take care of this. You take care of that. Let's get it going. Mm-hmm. And in the course of time, building that team rapport was the most critical piece. Because if you're going to get out there and invite others to join a community that focuses on transformation, you want to make sure yourself that you're structured in a way that people can look and say, wait a minute, it is happening. Right. So, you know, it took us the better part of, let's say, 2 years, you know, making sure we understood what the framework is. And anybody who tries to do anything within the Great Triangle realizes that there are institutional challenges, there are political challenges, there are security challenges, not to mention that obvious reality. And then, of course, when you bring in other activities like the African Nations Cup, which, you know, was wonderful for what it was, but that was a time when government almost basically said, hey, the workday is half, it's not full. So, you know, you put together your paperwork and then it just stalls, as it were. Or in the classic French, l'administration roule doucement. So roule doucement, mais sûrement. So we're coming to terms with the reality that indeed things may be slow, but they actually work, you know, and this is the uplift for us, that we needed to be focused, we needed to be passionate, to be resilient and very clear on our objectives, and then to say, we will cross every bridge as it pops up. So we put in the first set of papers with the Department of Agriculture. Mm-hmm. That was quick. We got that taken care of. And now pulling together a massive dossier of over 1,000 pages.
Wow.
Oh, yes. So there's a multi-level process, as Professor NGANJE mentioned, where the Ministry of Finance in Cameroon gets to look at the paperwork and say, we think this is good, but they are not in charge of monetary policy within the sub-region, because it's a sub-regional policy-making body called COBAC, which eventually says, fine, you guys are okay. So the Ministry of Finance will give their first nod, and then they forward the papers to the Banking Commission for Central Africa, which, you know, will take its own, the classic again, roule doucement mais sûrement, you know? And so for us, it's really been a thrill to first of all realize, wait a minute, we actually put in the right papers. And, you know, and the Ministry of Finance said, yes, you guys, you're looking good. Let's see if the, you know, the governing body for monetary operations within the sub-region agrees. And so far what we're hearing is very exciting. And we cannot wait to hold up the ultimate certificate of matriculation. But as a huge step of encouragement, and those who operate within this context understand, we had a surprise visit from inspectors from the Ministry of Finance. They showed up at our office unannounced, presented matching orders from their boss saying they had been sent, and Phako Credit Utility was on the list. You know, that made us really excited because it told us two things. Those in charge know we exist. Correct. That was number one. But number two was when they finished their controls, they came away and they said, we are impressed with how you guys are structured. We love your operations, right on, because our records show you're legit. Oh boy, that was a huge day, yes? So such that, you know, we have all of those papers in our arsenal. So the last 5 years have been amazing, building a solid foundation, making sure that the team rapport is in place and making sure that, you know, the authorities in charge recognize and validate the existence of P.C.U, and the operations are just going on wonderfully.
That's a good thing. And all of that is important to know, because you see, we're talking about money, finances. I don't know whose profession is robber or thief who just goes and gets money, or who has a tree in the back of their house where the money just falls down. You see, people work hard to make this money. And if they're going to go invest it, they would like to know that they are doing so and that they're going to get their returns. It's worth it. Because we live in a world, let's face it, the scams abound. Every day here, if I turn my cell phone on now, I will see maybe 6 proposals, all kinds of things going back and forth there. And so people would like, it's important that you went through all of this. People know this is legit. It is solid. The ground and background work have been done. And it's not just them saying, we're good, we're great, we rock, trust us. Somebody has done the checking in the background to make sure that everything is as it should be. So how exactly is it structured? You talked about the branches already that you hope to open. Is that kind of like, do we want to call names? Who is in the executive? Who are the founders? Do we want to go there, or let's just let us know and have an idea who's behind this besides the 3 of you right here? Yeah,
so
yes.
Go ahead, Chairman.
No, please.
Yeah, so it's like Mola Chairman said, he's our chairman. So Mola ESUNGE is the chairman of the board. So we have a board of directors, and within that board, we have several subcommittees. I am the chair for the Committee of Finance, Loan and Investment. And we have a committee for building committee. We have so many different committees within the organization that takes care of different things that come to the organization. And one of the things that I want to say, then I'll pass it up to my chairman, is that we want to make sure we do things right. If we're going to create a mega organization, we want to make sure the foundation is solid. So all these entities that we have are in line with COBAC, which is the approval organization of the body, or the Ministry of Finance. So we've met every requirement of board members and subcommittees within the board, or subcommittees that are attached to the organization. So we're doing it methodic, and we're doing it right.
Thank you, Molanganje. The other piece I'd like to note is that, as you rightly said, EGBE, there are many actors behind the scenes. LOIS is chairperson of the operations committee. I would love her to speak a little bit on the operational side of things. But here is the piece that I like that nobody watching or hearing us misses. And this is crucial because here you have a gentleman who has spent the last 30 years of his life teaching and studying how finance works and how financial institutions are run, and himself leading one of the premier financial agribusiness programs in the United States, in Professor William NGANJE. Mm-hmm. So you have the intellectual might that's needed. Mm-hmm. And then you have a phenomenal lady, for instance, like LOIS, with administrative experience galore. Of course, I know she will not want me to mention where she last served, but she has run through the ranks as a teacher, the patience, the diligence, just that sense of commitment to making sure if it's A, it's A. If it's B, it's B. And I love to say, and then you have a clown like me in the mix to keep everybody happy. But these are only just a few. I mean, you got people like Mola Likine, who's an expert project manager, what have you. And you come to our board meetings, it's like, guys, time out. Why is this right? Mm-hmm. And you have a gentleman like Dr. Elive Mignoli, who's a physicist, who comes to the meeting and he holds up the textbook. He says, the regulation says this. Mm-hmm. The man has read the regulation to a T. And so when we're saying, well, maybe we can go this route, he said, nope, that's contrary to the regulation. And then, of course, we are fortunate to have legal expertise and folks who actually do business on the ground, who understand the framework. And the idea here is we want to get it right from the get-go. Mm-hmm. And it's very encouraging to note that so far, we must say, so far, so good. There's not been a situation where we have been told, no, go fix this. And that's remarkable. Not once in this process have we been told, go fix this, because before we tender anything, we have had multiple eyes look through it. It's not just, the characteristic tendency among folks in the diaspora thinking, oh, we know it all. No. We have multiple layers of consultation, multiple layers of review, and then eventually we say, okay, this is good. And mind you, part of the package, part of the process actually literally involves each one of us and the many others on the boards and some of the committees like the supervisory committee, putting down their CVs and what have you. Because the regulators are looking to say, we want to know by what, what is it? Like you mentioned earlier, is this some robbers trying to get quick access to people's pockets or what have you? But, LOIS can speak to the operations in terms of branches and what have you.
Right. And before she jumps in to speak about that, I want to just anchor what you said. You probably have gotten to know her maybe a little more recently. I have known her from her SECA days. I was in Form 1, she was in Form 5, and she was the senior prefect. I would say, I know with all due respect to all the other senior prefects that I met, including in my own class and the ones behind, exceptional, she's a senior prefect par excellence. Right then, she would have been what, 14, 15 at the time? She ran that school and that everything like a pro, even back at that age. Very efficient, very fair, the right mix between what needs to be, what ought to be, but with kindness, with courtesy, and with compassion. That's what she's always been. So I'm not the least bit surprised. I know she's wanting to even disappear from this screen. Now, as I say all of that stuff, because she does not, that's another thing, humility does not like to do all of that, but I had to say so, because I know if she says to me now, I don't know, go walk out in the middle of the street, I'll go do it. I believe there's a reason why. It must make some sense somehow. So you couldn't have chosen better. She really is solid stock. Go on, Sister Lois. Now, embarrassed.
Before we go to Sister Lois, I just want to echo the expertise of our chairman. He's been a professor of mathematical finance. So he understands the finance industry really well. Right. And he's somebody of class as well. He's a pastor. And he believes in doing things right. And all of us on the board, we have expertise in IT. We have expertise in law. Sami Mokeba, who is our good friend, he's part of the P.C.U. We have expertise.
Full disclosure, that's my cousin.
Yes, we have expertise in almost, and this is the beauty about P.C.U. The organizations that we have expertise, and this is the first time we're bringing them together to do something great for Phako. So, Lois, go ahead.
Yes.
Thank you very much, EGBE. Those are very gracious words. Thank you. Also, I think it will be fair to call out the different committees, and then I'll talk about operations committee. So we have the finance, loans, and investment, where NGANJE is the chairperson. We have the development committee, and our chair there is Mola Eric Manga. We have the legal and regulatory committee, and our chair is Mola Elive Menyoli. We have the IT committee, and our chair is Mola Bristol Lionga. We have the bylaws committee. Mola Gustave Efote is the chair. And more recently, we just added a marketing and advertising committee, and Mola Michael Mbake is the chair. In fact, he's done a marvelous job with our website. So the operations committee, we try to follow up the day-to-day running of our branch, our head office, to ensure that what needs to be done is done. So for example, in equipping our head office, the operations committee had to take the lead to ensure that we could purchase things that were needed and make sure the work is done. In hiring staff, the operations committee takes the lead, and we do the different, we look at the different people and do all the interviews and so on, and then report to the board so that the board can take a decision. So actually the operations committee tries to put in place the policies that the board has taken to ensure that it works, and also to report to the board what's happening that might need urgent solutions before a board meeting. Yeah. And we are a couple of us there. Some people are on the ground, some people are abroad, but they're always available on Zoom meetings for us to take decisions. Yeah.
That sounds like a well-oiled machine there, running and moving smoothly. There's nothing better than to find people who have different skill sets, each bring what they can do in there, and then everybody respect their boundaries. You know what you're good at, you do that. You're the IT person, you handle it. You are the person that is the judicial person, you handle that. You are the person that handle because everybody has strengths, but everybody also has weaknesses. I couldn't add 5 + 5 to save my life, but I can show, yeah, I can sit here and say, okay, here's the platform, come talk about it. That's what you can do to help the whole process. So it's a good thing when these people come together, respect each other, acknowledge each other's strengths, use them, build on them, and then people understand that, okay, I can't go meddle in this one and meddle in this one. And then I also notice from what you're saying, accountability. You don't tell somebody, here you go, run with it. You can't just go do anything, because you're going to have to report back to somebody who's going to say, but what happened here? Here's not what we decided. How did this happen? And it's very important. If you don't have those checks and balances, then somebody's going to take something and just run off with it. Before you know it, everything crumbles. So I know you must have an official mission statement kind of thing, what you're planning. Mula ESUNGE already talked about that, but what is the actual mission? What are the goals that you actually have? Like, what do you see yourself? What did you want this to exist for? What is the mission? What are the goals?
Fantastic question, Iya. I would let Iya Lois take that. I just wanted to add a real critical piece. Mm-hmm. You know, you have a phenomenal idea. For instance, you're in North Carolina, the Wright brothers want to reduce the amount of time it takes to move from point A to point B. Correct. Here are these phenomenal people with a fantastic idea in terms of, you know, moving people, generating a platform for upward mobility. Right. And so you do all of that structuring. We are really blessed to have at the office when you walk in, an experienced banker in Mola Pitanjo. Okay. The man has worked extensively with various banks in Cameroon, understands the banking framework, the banking climate. And at a time when he has piled up all of this experience, and dare I say, he's ready to say, okay, I'm going to go relax on the beach, P.C.U. comes calling and say, Mola, you gathered all of this experience so you can serve your people. Right. So in his retirement, he is now putting in all of these years, 30 plus 40 years some of, accumulated knowledge and skill and ability to make sure. Just imagine, it's like we are actually taking off from the first floor, we're taking off at the level of the 40th floor. If you think of the experience represented in having someone like Mola Peter Njo as the manager of P.C.U, because we make a distinction between the owners of P.C.U. and the staff of P.C.U. Right. And so he comes in and he says, here are the kinds of people I need. Here are the protocols I want to follow in recruiting them. And they go through a rigorous interview process, and the staff are there, they form their unit, and stuff is running really well. But I'll turn you back to LOIS.
Okay. Thank you, Mola Chair. So the slogan of P.C.U. tells what it is we want to do. It says, P.C.U, your bridge to financial empowerment. And so we want to empower the Phako person. Now we have lots of pots of money hanging over there. There are people who have a lot of money. There are others who have ideas, and they just need a little bit of financial support to be able to make things work. So we want to be able to have, P.C.U. wants to be able to fill that niche, okay? Providing resources and facilities so that people can do what they need to do, financial. We want to, we are out to do project financing to help small retailers, farmers, business setup, provide them the resources, but also help them to grow, to be able to grow in their ability to borrow, but also to pay back wisely. So we help to build up that ability. We want to strengthen financial standing and security of the members. So like every other credit union, we want people to save wisely, to borrow, and also to pay back promptly. So we encourage that kind of activity. We want to pay attention to and listen and even offer advice on financial advisory services to people who want to do something, who don't know how to do it. We encourage people to group together. Our manager is talking about that a lot, to group little small businesses together. Let's say, for example, you have people who are doing poultry farming. If we could group them to form an association, they will be bigger, we'll be able to help them, and they will be able to check themselves, to ensure that they can pay back. So we want to make resources available for all of those kind of activities, which brings me to the point of why did we say utility and not just credit union? So we want to be able to do just a little bit more than an average credit union will do. Other services that have to do with our land, for example, land issue is something we can carry out activities that help to promote and keep and preserve the Phako land. Then we'll be doing something. So how can we support that kind of activity? Those are the kind of ideas. So we want to encourage and support self-reliance among the Phako people. Yeah, those who are there, the members and the communities who want to educate and train members to be able to carry out, do their savings and do credit services. So these are some of the things that P.C.U. wants to do. I would like to say that besides having so many well-trained and well-to-do Phako people, one of the great things that we have is that we can have a think tank, in P.C.U. so that people come out with ideas which are original. We don't just have to do what every other person is doing, and we do things differently so that we can have results. Because if we keep doing things the way we are doing them, we wouldn't go far. We have to do things differently for us to be able to achieve different results. So maybe that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Can I add something to that? I know LOIS has summed it up very well, but our long run, big vision is to become one of the most powerful financial institutions in our region. We have Amity Bank that is managed and powered by our brothers who are from the Bamileke region. They have a powerful bank in Amity Bank. They have a powerful hospital in their region. Right. Why not us, the Mokwe people or the people of Phako? So another bigger vision, we're starting with baby steps, but a bigger vision is helping these folks without finance, we don't have any development.
Oh, yes.
So we want to make sure that we're not only going to help and then stay small. Our goal is to leave a legacy to be one of the most powerful financial institutions in the region.
Correct.
And to translate this in, you know, livable terms, Iya Egwe, a niece of yours in Limbe needs help. She needs $1 million francs to do something,
right? But
you're not there. And you go, okay, you know what? $1 million francs is about 1,800 or 2,000, you know, back in the day. You send the money. There's no mechanism for you to follow up. Your desire is to see this person make progress, not always coming to you. You know, maybe another one will come, but not always. Well, P.C.U makes it possible for you to introduce an element which in the human psyche produces amazing results. You know, shame is an element which in its negative produces dangerous results. In its positive produces amazing results.
Yeah.
Well, so you put your money in P.C.U and you tell your niece, go there, get a loan, I will co-sign. I'm an investor, I will co-sign your loan. Suddenly, your niece doesn't have to deal with you. She has to deal with all of these people in P.C.U and she'll be like, I cannot fail. I cannot be the story that the board chairman will say, this one failed, or the manager will report to the board, look at this one. And that relieves you of constantly being on the phone. Did you do that thing as we said? No. If she's not meeting up, she gets a call from one of the ladies in the office. We expected you on Thursday, what's going on? And the manager appears on site. Oh, you know, you can restructure this project this way. And you can, so all of those kinds of win-win scenarios are captured within the P.C.U vision.
Yeah, that's an important part of the thing, because not only that will she not want to disappoint the people, there's also the idea of familiarity breeding contempt that can go with that. If I give her the money, she's like, that's my auntie. I can spend it on whatever I want to do. I'm just going to ask again. She's going to give me some more. And if I'd given that money to her in her hands, and then the neighbor came and said, see, my light bill, my so and so thing, she's like, here you go. And then finally the money was sent to you for hasn't been used for that purpose. Because if it's sitting there safely and well guarded in the P.C.U, you can't come and say to the people in the P.C.U, I want to go to the movies. Can I have some? I want to do some thing. It's a plan that you have, that they know about, that they're going to follow through with. So it really is a win-win situation, the way you've presented it. It helps us stay on task, stay on track. I too I'm getting a good investment for for the money that I put in there, and everybody succeeds in the end. So that's a good part to actually mention. So what have the challenges been so far? Because you said so far so good, but I know that with anything that's starting with steps, there'll be some challenges along the way. What have they been?
Well, so let me just note that the first challenge was to get LOIS on the board. No, there was some of that. There was some of that because when we started, most of us were in the diaspora.
Right.
And I still remember one board meeting as we're conversing, a number of us said, look, if this is going to succeed, we need to shift the board from 90% diaspora to at most 40% diaspora. And so it was just wonderful to see folks on the ground jump in, because again, the posture, unlike a number of initiatives from the diaspora, the posture was not, we know it all, listen to us. The posture was, you got a part to play and you got to be in this. And the folks were like, absolutely, we're in. Mm-hmm. I think, without naming names and without going into too many details, our biggest challenge was exactly what I mentioned, building a team. Ensuring from the onset that you had a team with shared values, with shared commitment to the vision, and with a dose of integrity wherein you can go to bed at night knowing the other board member, the other associate, the other committee member will do right by the book. Right. Not by, oh, but that person is my aunt. Oh, that person is my sister. Because that frustrates creativity like few other things. Mm-hmm. And I will say by the grace of God, we scaled that powerfully. and brought to bear within the board a sense of commitment and passion wherein folks understand collectively that we are only going to be as successful as we are integral, showing a sense of integrity, showing transparency, but yes, you mentioned demonstrating humility, because we have to come to whoever we're dealing with an understanding that here is our dream, but we don't know it all, and you have a part to play. Right. And, you know, God has blessed the effort. There have been delays. I mean, the social unrest and political unrest in the English-speaking regions has, let's say, has drained us, but it didn't succeed to stop us. And you know, just the way things work as you go across cultures and across bridges, be they linguistic bridges or physical, geographical bridges, it's been a learning process. But I think one thing that has saved the day for us, you know, and I have to say, every single board member has had their moment, you know, myself included, every single one. I mean, there have been times when NGANJE has said to me, Mola ESUNGE, remember why we started this. Correct. You know, and when he has this moment, somebody says, no, Mola, this is not. So that sense of a shared bond to say, this is what we've got to do, and we've got to do it. We've got to provide that uplift. And every success has generated an inflow of more people who say, okay, it's working. Because as you know, classically in the human nature, folks go, all right, we're going to watch this and see. And the Phako man is notorious for this particular aspect. So you know what has happened? The more they keep hearing, because they are listening to hear, it has fallen, it has happened. And they're only hearing, it's moving. It's gotten approved. It's gotten this. They have an office. They have a manager. That's really bringing. So, you know, we are focused on the fact we have made some, you know, taken some good lessons along the way. But those moments of challenge and those moments of trepidation have not been nearly as many as the milestones God has allowed us to accomplish. And so that really excites us because, again, we're focusing on generations beyond us. Let me bring a verse of scripture, because one of the things that has, you know, sort of been a driving force, and I commend NGANJE in particular for always reminding us, among the Jewish people, if this is a Jewish community of 4, that money is going to turn, the $10 bill is going to turn among us here at least what, 3 or 4?
36% of the time.
Hello, before it goes out.
Right.
And there's a second aspect, which a friend mentioned in another discussion just yesterday. He said, the other thing among the Jewish folk is, I am not responsible for planning the financial well-being of my children. I'm actually responsible for planning the financial well-being of my grandchildren. Right. And you know Proverbs 13:22, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children. Right. So here we are. And what we're talking about here is not our kids. We're talking about their children.
Correct.
They will talk about their own grandchildren.
Correct.
And this is the legacy project. Correct. This is it right there.
Right.
Yeah, so let me add, I'll just add something. Mola Chairman has said it all, but let me look at the marketing side. And in Phako, we've had a lot of microfinance institutions that have failed. And a lot of banks have also failed because the delinquency rate in our region is alarming. I did some training for microfinance institution with Indeli Joyce at the University of BUEA. She took me around to help them. In the United States, for example, delinquency rate is 0.75. If it goes above 0.75 for most microfinance or cooperatives, the federal government will come and check that bank. In Cameroon, it's more than 40%.
Lord have mercy.
So people are so scared that this venture is not going to succeed. And what we are doing, we are building an organization of selflessness, and we are putting the checks and balance in place to make sure that these delinquency rates that other microfinance institutions encounter in the region, we avoid those because we have the expertise to know how to structure our loans to avoid those type of delinquency. So those are some of the fears that our people have. but let them be assured that we are working hard as a board with the necessary expertise to overcome some of those limitations.
Because sometimes that's the idea, doing due diligence to make sure I don't just come and say, okay, I'm going to do something like I know that somebody, a relative of mine that was trying to say, I want to do a cold store in which place? What are you going to do about electricity? I see, you're the same person who's been telling me every day the wrong cord light in the year has done. How do you plan on keeping this deep freezer that you're trying to get me to get you if you have not figured out how we are going to keep it running? So what the fish is going to rot? Then what's going to happen? You know, if you don't just listen or look at the feasibility of the thing and you just churn out money, that's when you're going to get those kinds of results. But if you're doing due diligence to find out, is this a feasible plan? And maybe, as you're saying, you actually give advice, financial counsel on how to do things. Maybe tweak, they have a good idea, tweak it and make sure that it's going to work before you actually give that investment. Then you're sure you're going to get the returns back and avoid this kind of delinquency where somebody is just not paying, not out of truancy, but because the business really did not take off. And sometimes it does not take off because you did not do the groundwork to see whether it was going to succeed in the first place. And that kind of a thing. So it's comforting to hear this, that those kind of, you've anticipated what could go wrong and try to find ways of making sure that it does not go wrong, as opposed to sometimes you see people who are doing things, they're all about, it's going to work. And there's this euphoria and I'm like, I don't see you taking the time to think things through. It's not wishful thinking. It's a matter of have you done the actual groundwork. So that's comforting and reassuring to hear that all of this has been done. We're going to say something, ESUNGE.
I have something to say.
LOIS, okay, please.
Yes, LOIS.
Thank you. There's one other challenge that I have noticed in the past couple of months. It's not enough to put in your money as an investor. You have to use the service yourself. So I've noticed that we need to, I'm talking now about the investors, need to use the services that they are trying to market so that, I mean, charity begins at home, as it is said. So that for me, has been a challenge that I've noticed, that I think with proper advertisement, we will be able to convince ourselves so that we should be the partakers of what it is that we want to give out to others first, so that we convince people that it is really worth the trouble. And in saying that, I must really also appreciate the fact that a few people carry a lot of the work of making P.C.U work on their shoulders. And there's a few, I wouldn't want to name names, but there are some very committed people, because most of the work which is being done is pro bono. So there are lots of people who have put in their time and their heart into this P.C.U to make it work. And I really dove my hat to them.
That is the foundation of any group. You can have, it's not the numbers. It really isn't the numbers. It's the commitment of the few good willing men and women to do that, to stand and hold the fort and move forward. So I'm not surprised to hear that. Sometimes you look at any group, you look at the register is long down there. How many are actually doing the work and moving the pieces together is usually a few who are just committed and dedicated, who take it upon themselves and who carry the thing on their shoulders. And then, so I hear you when you say that. And ESUNGE was going to say something.
You know, as LOIS mentioned, you can picture 5 years. When we started, we're holding board meetings. It was almost weekly. And then we went to twice a month. And as we began getting results, we said, okay, we can slow down the pace to monthly. But, you know, if an emergency pops up, and it was all wonderful. It was all wonderful because it gave us, for folks in the diaspora, wherein you join a board, for instance, to provide expertise to help improve the community and what have you. We quickly realized the mindset wasn't the same. Folks joined boards in the triangle because at each sitting, there's this much per diem and what have you. And we said, we're not going to succeed. I mean, in 5 years, we would have already washed out everything that was in the accounts, you know. But that was good because in the process, some folks who were excited with that mindset failed the selflessness test and they saw the door for themselves. It was pretty clear. And so all we can say at this point, like LOIS has noted, is the fact that we ourselves must be the prime actors, prime beneficiaries, not necessarily in liquid terms, but prime actors in terms of keeping mobility, keeping the operations afloat. Mm-hmm. There's a piece you touched on, which we actually lived. You know, when NGANJE speaks of the default rate being high, in part is because of the man, no man business. So, you know, we got a situation where somebody, for instance, wanted to have a loan, okay? And it was like, okay, fine, let's get this going. But somebody on our board had understanding of the framework surrounding some particular regulation that had just been enacted during that time. Mm-hmm. And so by reminding the board that what this person is introducing as the basis for the transaction is actually not acceptable in view of this particular, it spared us a situation where we would have doled out money and the person, I got them. So, you know, this multiple layers of checks and ongoing updating of knowledge and just shared governance for us is a critical piece. Maybe part of the beauty here, I should note, is that you have people like NGANJE and myself who are in the academy, mm-hmm. wherein, hey, if you want to keep your job as a university president or dean, you better make sure you understand what shared governance is. Right. So we have brought some of that to the board and to how P.C.U operates to say everybody has something to share. Even if their opinion is way off base, tomorrow we may be where they were already, but everybody gets to participate and gets to share something. And yes, Pareto principle kicks in. 80% of the work gets done by 20% of the people. We understand that. We hope it's better, that things get better. Because really, for us, this is not like an ESUNGE or IKOME or NGANJE project. This is something at the service of the community. What greater joy than to bring your skill and know-how to benefit generations of people for years to come.
That's my prayer for you all, that's going to be the case. It's going to be standing there. And then that the generations that come would see the sweat and toil that was put into it and want to keep it going. Because sometimes the seriousness or the way anything is looked at also depends on the way the people who are doing it look at it. If you take it seriously, then people will look at it and take it as seriously as you make it. Just like when you have your children here, if you take, say, church going as like, okay, today I'm not going. Next week, I think I'll be sleepy, I'm not going to go. Then you think it's they who are going to get up and say, I want to go. When you yourself have been like wishy-washy about the thing, you don't take it seriously, they too would not. But if they see the commitment with which you are taking it, how seriously you do that, it kind of sets the pace for them to also just copy and follow along. You take it seriously, so they do too. And I like the idea about not necessarily skipping the immediate generation, but that far-thinking idea of like it's the grandchildren, then that makes you do things, put things in place that make it long-lasting, as opposed to, we all know how it has worked with, you look at people who just did and sent their children, we used to say abroad back in the day. Mm-hmm. And then now you look at the name, the name's just kind of gone. You can't find the people. Yeah. It was very short-lived kind of a thing, as opposed to looking further down the road and letting them understand that if I'm sending you to school, it's so that you too can take care of the generation after you, as opposed to here's money for you to just party and it ends with you. And then if you end up in jail for not doing things right, I'll just bail you out. You keep doing that and it's going to end there. That name is going to die right there with just the children. But if you set things in place, then you hear of generations down the road. You look at the children's children, as you said, and they're all doing well because you set the pace and done everything as you should. So are there any upcoming events, any announcements that you have? What should we who have listened to this do? What would you want from us? Some of us qualify one parent Bakweri, some of us qualify married to a Bakweri person. What should I do about this whole thing? I have heard now. What is my next step?
Let me just, and it's answering the question partially, but again, I want to echo what Mola Chairman and LOIS said. Mm-hmm. The Jews have money circulate amongst them at least 21 times. Mm-hmm. Blacks have money circulate amongst them 1.5 times. So we want to start this culture where do business with your bank. all of us, we are inviting everybody to open an account. If you qualify to be a preferred stockholder, contribute your 1.1 million. The 100,000 is for the seed money. The 1 million, which is about 200 or 1.6 thousand dollars, that is capital to make sure that we can provide these loans and everything to our folks back home to develop poultry farms, piggery farms, and be successful. We want to create entrepreneurs. So we are inviting every son and daughter of Phako to try to open an account or become a preferred stockholder. That's our primary request, because we have started this thing. We have close to 100 investors now. Just imagine if we grow this to 1,000 investors. In no time, we will become one of the most powerful financial institutions in our region. We have more than 1,000 sons and daughters of Phako all over the world and back in the days, back at home.
Right.
Just think about if we have 1,000 investors, how powerful this institution would be. So that's our invitation to everybody who is listening today. Come do business with your own bank.
Right.
Let me just add for, in practical purposes, any of us is within reach, any of us is within reach. And I want to note the very character of P.C.U. We're not a political organization. I bet here there are different political views. We don't do politics. We respect. We're not a religious organization. Yes, I know many will say, oh, but you are a pastor. Fair enough. We respect what each person is, what they believe, but we're not a sectarian. We're not a political entity. We're not a religious entity. We're not even a cultural organization. We are an organization that seeks to foster a different mindset. I want to underline that because entrepreneurship is a mindset. And people need to grasp the sense. Several thoughts could be echoed here. Number one, nobody ever became rich depending on their salary. None. So if somebody thinks, okay, my salary is enough, well, that's a mistake because upward mobility is crucial. Right. Number two, no one became sufficiently strong by depriving themselves of intangible assets, landed assets, for instance. Right. But many people, because of the demands and what have you, they just, okay, take this 600 square meters, give me 5 million francs. Correct. Well, P.C.U. closes that gap for you. You probably needed money to send a daughter overseas, buy the plane ticket, get a loan. It's not your land you should sell. Get a loan, get one of the investors to co-sign, and then you pay back this money with, and the interest rates have been designed to be really, really attractive, And then the third piece is, even if you don't want to join, ask yourself, why don't I want to join? What is my excuse? Oh, I heard about this one that failed. Did you check the characters of the players who were running that effort? And then look at the people talking to you about P.C.U. Go to the internet, Google them, or ask around. Who is this Mola? Who is this Iya? What are these people currently doing for the community that we can say we can trust them because there's a dream bigger than them that they're bringing to us?
They have a track record in a lot of things that they have done and done right and done well.
There you go. Yeah. So that track record should inspire anyone. And if you cannot come in as an investor, you can come in as a client. Nobody should feel like, oh, I have enough money. Will they take me as a client? Anybody, in fact, all of us are clients of P.C.U. All of us here, because you come in as an investor at the 1.1 million francs, and then the way you do business with P.C.U. is that you actually go and open your own account with 20,000 francs. So if I needed a loan from P.C.U., I cannot call the manager and say, listen, I'm the chairman, I'm one of the founders, give me a loan. It's not going to work. The manager will look at his records to see, is this man a client of P.C.U? Does he have an account here which he opened with 20,000 francs? He may be an investor. Is he a client? Check. Okay, fine. Let me review his application, send it to the loans committee, and the loans committee will say, okay, the threshold is within reach, approved. If not, the threshold is higher than what we allowed, we forward to the board. And when that application comes to the board, because it's my application, I don't have a voice in that conversation. I don't have a voice. I cannot participate in that conversation. The board makes a decision. If they are gracious, they may allow me in the room. Sometimes they'll say, okay, you need to be out because we're discussing your file. So we eliminate this idea of man no man, which contributes to high default. We eliminate as much as possible avenues for unnecessary time-wasting litigation. That's another place. Because by the time the lawyers begin to knock their heads, this process is just going to take, God forbid, an eternity, a lot of time. And what is suffering is the liquidity of the entity. So we have built-in mechanisms to say, is this something that could attract litigation? If yes, we don't want it because we want to stay afloat. We don't want to start spending investors' money on lawsuits.
Yes.
We don't want to do that. So we're very careful with those kinds of things and so on. But, we're growing. And like Lois mentioned, before long, there'll be branches in Tico, in Limbe, in Muyuka, all of the, main cities within Phako division will be served as a matter of priority as the security conditions on the ground allow. And of course, we will start hitting the major capitals of the nation. Douala is within reach, and there are lots of members in Douala. Yaoundé is within reach and so on. So wherever folks are hearing us, it's very easy. pcu.sec, pcu.sec@gmail.com. pcu.sec@gmail.com. Address your question. If you have access, contact any of us. We'll be happy to answer your questions. We'll be happy to guide you on how to proceed. This is an opportunity. It's a bandwagon that all of us should get in on. This is one way to pay forward and to close generational gaps of poverty that have been perpetuated and just continued. It's like people say, oh, these ones are cursed. And yes, maybe as a pastor now, people say, pray for me to break the curse. But I want to note, that curse is not broken until you do something different.
Right.
You've got to do something different. We've got to move our people into a mindset that says, I can do something. I can actually start with 2 chickens and get to 10 and get to 50. And before long, Christmas is around the corner. I'm going to sell 100 chicks and run this thing again, thanks to a small loan of 300,000 francs from P.C.U. Made possible because EGBE, LOIS, NGANJE pull their resources together and say, you too can have something for your family and you can make a difference. So it's possible.
Right. And as opposed to selling that piece of land, because that's the thing, that there's the outcry and the outrage is there on every forum I belong to, the land, because you pointed out, and somebody in one of those forums that I'm on just yesterday, somebody was saying, hey, the people have got to live. So they don't necessarily, it's not as if they hate their land and want to just throw it away. Yeah. The temptation is there when they have a need, a financial need. Then they're like, well, I do have this land here. I'm going to go ahead and sell it so I can meet this need. But if they had somewhere else to go, if they had a choice, they would not do that because there's an idea about they're just careless people, foolish people. They're not caring. The temptation is real. It's hard to sit there and be starving and your kids are at home not going to school. Yeah. And you have a piece of land that you don't even have the money to build anything on. You're like, of what good is this to me? But if you had a place where you could now go and take care of those needs, you'll not be as ready and willing to go sell this land. So that can even, this whole entity, P.C.U. thing, by doing what it's doing, can help in that way to even curb all of that, what's going on there.
Indeed, yeah. And not to belabor the point, anybody who's frustrated about the land challenges needs to be part of the solution. This is part of what we're saying to people. Whatever challenge you identify, your journey should not stop at identifying the challenge. You need to pay forward by helping to solve that challenge. So you identify the challenge. People are reckless about their land. They don't have value for it. And, you know, opportunistic investors are, how do you stop them? You have to create a different pipeline. Correct. And this is where those of us in the diaspora come in powerfully. You know, folks buy their cars for $45,000. I can't say anything about the sense of values, but if you drop $2,000, you will be making a significant difference in the destinies of the Phako nation. Correct. Just about $2,000. It's in fact less now that the dollar is running really strong. $1,850. You make that available, you will be making a contribution that generations to come will go, who are the people who even thought about this? Who are the people who had the foresight? You know, like we have members in P.C.U who say, we don't understand anything about money, but we're happy NGANJE is there. He knows money. We're happy this one is there. He knows the law. We will give you what it takes. You guys help us. And here we are. Imagine 5 years of multiple meetings. Those are tons of hours. And our joy is we're doing this on a volunteer basis. Right. We're giving back to our community. And I think anybody who has that mindset of an entrepreneur should realize, wow, you mean you got like all of these teachers and professors and lawyers, and you don't have to pay them for all of that brain power brought together in one room to move the community? You don't have to pay them. Just join the effort as an investor or as a client, preferably as both if you're in the diaspora, because it's certainly possible for many of us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you couldn't have chosen a better panel to come and pitch this. Every single one of you has put it out there clearly. You've made my job so easy. I don't have to even ask if I could even ask the questions, you'd answered them already. So I would thank you all for first of all, for believing in this.
Before you close up, may I just say something, please, because I can hear. Can I say something, please?
Please do.
Okay, so I was going to say that I'm inviting everybody listening to visit our website.
Okay.
www.pcufako.com. So you'd find out a lot more there. And I would like to say, for those people who are not in Cameroon, those who are in the diaspora, it's easy to open an account. You could, you would be able to get the information about the workers in P.C.U, the manager and the other staff. You could contact them and they'll be able to facilitate the process of opening an account if that is what you want to do. Mm-hmm. And I would like to also add that just to open an ordinary account is 20,000, but you have to pay some other solidarity, entrance fees, and so on. So the minimum that you are going to pay will be 28,000. 28,000. Thank you very much.
And I'm thinking if you'll be able to come up with the 20,000, the 8,000 should be forthcoming. But I'm going to check one thing so to make sure, because we've been talking about P.C.U, and then saying Phako, Phako. But then I'm sure the average person is going, Phako, isn't that F-A-K-O? and so yes, I know where the whole thing is coming from, because when you're giving the website address and somebody's going to say Phako.com, wherever they're going to, let us maybe spell it out, and maybe somebody can explain better than me where the Phako is coming from.
Yeah. So in the background, we always say Phako. So P-H-A-K-E. So we, as the Phako people, Phako is spelled from maybe the Western person, but as a Phako person, is Phako.
Yes, so that's why it's P-H. Because people are going to say, oh, Phako, okay, I know how it's spelled in the SN Tita geography book. And go typing F-A-K-1, they're saying P.C.U. They're like, how can all these people with doctorates and everything not know how the alphabet?
I guess part of it is that they had to introduce a nuance there.
Right.
To let the person go,
I figured it out. Let us not end this show without explaining. The P.C.U. People are going, P.C.U. how? Where's the P from? Because it's being spelled the way phonetically, closer to the phonetics of what the thing is supposed to sound like. Right. We all know how that has happened to our languages. Everybody's name almost has been morphed into something that the white man could pronounce better or easier than what it really was originally meant to be. So in this case, we're talking about Phako, it's P-H-A-K-O. And does that affect the website? Is that how the website too is? Is it PH on the website or is FA on the website?
It's PH.
FA.
PCUFAKO.com.
Okay.
PCUFAKO.com.
That's where to go and check. So you can do your own background check, your own self, and look at it. But sometimes the website too helps give you more information that we can afford to present here in the time that we have to do this. So go and do your background work, look at the pictures and things. I saw them and I was impressed my own self, just at the side of the emblem even and everything. Right. That tells you that somebody has put some work into it. You can tell that they take the work seriously just by the presentation of that website, by the people that you see here and the whole 9 yards. So I don't know if anybody has some more remarks to make. I want to make sure that you've said all that you would like to say before we close the show. Anybody else want to say anything?
The only thing I'd like to say is to thank you immensely for giving us this opportunity. As you can tell, if you kept us here for the whole day, we will keep going. We will keep going. So, but thank you on behalf of the P.C.U board and on behalf of all P.C.U investors and members and clients. Thank you for leveraging your space to get, more and more people aware of the opportunities that are offered herein. And we're just so grateful. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I want to echo the same thank you. So your sister, Miss Nyamsakoniko, I think, she taught me in BBSS. So that was my...
Miss MBIWAN. I think she was
Miss MBIWAN.
Yes. Who taught you? That was BBSS? Yes.
She was my literature teacher in BBSS. So I want to thank you again for bringing P.C.U to this platform. We are all very passionate about P.C.U, and we're doing this selflessly. And we think it's a legacy project for generations to come. Mm-hmm. And we keep our hands together. We invite as many people to contribute to this. So thank you again.
You're very welcome. Sister Lois.
Thank you so much, EGBE, for having us. And this is a wonderful opportunity, a leverage, and I'm sure it's going to help us because it's marketing P.C.U. So this is awesome. We want to say thank you. And please, those people who are still on the sidelines, join us. Come on, join us, and so that we can make something great. We can really leave a legacy for our region, for our Phako region. Division. Thank you.
I just have to that, my pleasure. And so we can't be on the complaining side all the time. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. This is not going. What have you done to be part of the solution? Give it your honest effort. Put your honest effort into it. I've said there, and I like to run my mouth. And then that's how I talked about when the chief was coming. I talked and he said, "Okay, you come over here." And I found myself now on an airplane flying over there because I run my mouth and I had to go put it into action. So now I'm doing the same thing. I will go find that 28,000 francs and open an account there and start, so I don't actually just talk and not walk the talk. So thank you all for the sacrifice you've done, that you've made. Your names will go down in history. You will be thanked for it. The song says, long after we're gone, it says, only remembered for what you have done. Right. And you are taking that to heart. And doing all of this pro bono, the least the rest of us can do is support it in whatever way we can. One of the things being actually going to become part of this. So thank you so much for taking your time. I know how busy for Sister Lois. It's already late, but the two gentlemen professors here, time is money, we know it. So if you've taken time to come and sit down here, we are grateful. So thank you so much for doing this for your people and for the community at large.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
And best of luck to you and all the efforts. I look forward to the day when I have you back here saying, yes, the branch over here has opened. The branch over here in Tico has opened. The Muika branch. I'll be asking for the pictures and come and celebrate. Remember they were here. They promised. They said it will end up happening. Look at it now. It has happened.
Right.
So start documenting all of those successes, because there'll be the success show coming along where we can celebrate your success.
Amen.
Thank you.
All
Thank you.
All the best.
All right.
All right.